Thomas, thanks very much.
21 minutes past 7. One of our main stories this morning is the death of 2 men and a woman in an avalanche in the Highlands. It happened when a group of 6 people were descending from a peak on the south side of the valley in Glen Coe when the slope that they were on broke away.
One woman is in a serious condition in hospital. Scotland's First Minister Alex Salmond has described what's happened as an appalling tragedy.
Alan Hinks is with us in the studio this morning. He's an experienced mountaineer, obviously very familiar, I presume, with this particular part of Scotland, Alan, from your many years climbing. Tragedies like this are relatively rare, but this one is particularly bad. Our reporter earlier was saying that probably the worst in Scotland's history.
I don't know about the worst, but it's very bad. I mean, my heart really goes out to the families, you know, there, but for the grace of God, I often say, it is one of the worst for in one go.
Are you always aware when you're up in the mountains, particularly when there's snow on the slopes, that something like this could happen?
I guess you should be, but you don't go out with that in your mind all the time, otherwise you'd be consumed with anxiety. But you should be aware that when you're going out in winter, that avalanches can happen. I mean, avalanches just slide in snow, to put it to the layman. I mean, when snow slides off your house roof, that's an avalanche. But there are measures you can take to sort of lessen the risk, obviously.
We knew that there was a cold front coming. The weather forecasts have been pretty clear. What do you bear in mind then? You say you take precautions or you can have contingency plans. What do you bear in mind? Like, should these guys have been out there in the first instance when you know this cold weather front is here?
Yeah, well, they definitely should have been there if that's what they want to do. There's no dramas.
So you just,
well,
regardless of the weather, just kind of put me in the mindset of someone who does climb, because I don't climb mountains and hike in these conditions. That's normal, is it? You just think, OK, this is all part of the challenge.
Yes, it is. I mean, the only way to go skiing is when there's snow. So the only way to go winter climbing is when there's snow, you know, in the winter. To put it in perspective, the weather isn't that bad in northwest Scotland. There isn't very much snow. I mean, all this news about snow, there's nothing in the Lake District where I've come from, well, not in the valleys. There's very little in northwest Scotland. It's mostly above 800 metres. But the snow that there is, a lot of it is quite unstable. It's been redeposited by wind. So the snow that's fallen has then been swept and put onto a different aspect of slope by the wind, and that can cause very unstable snowpack.
Is that what makes hiking in the hills and when there is snowfall there particularly dangerous, if it has been picked up and blown, because it's not as well settled, I suppose? Yeah,
it makes it often more dangerous because it's redeposited by the wind on the lee slope, and it's often compacted very hard. It's known as hard slab or wind slab, so if you, even when you're experienced, you can get caught out. You go on this slope and you think this is very stable because it's very hard, sometimes iron hard, and then it just fractures because it's been deposited on a weaker soft layer underneath. And that's what causes the avalanche.
Is there anything you can do to protect yourself if you're caught in an avalanche? Are you taught what to do? Is there a way of thinking, OK, if I do this, at least I have a chance of survival?
It's very difficult. The best thing is to avoid avalanches by, you know, following the weather forecasts and look at the history of which way the wind's been blowing and avoid those aspects of slope. So it is, and obviously pay heed to the Scottish Avalanche Information Service, which is a great service that does warn about avalanche risk. So it is best to avoid an avalanche. If you're caught in one, they say you can swim, you can do this and that, try and get out of it, roll to the side. I have actually been caught in 3 or 4 avalanches and survived them. They're by chance somehow.
Just by luck, really, isn't it?
2 were in the Lake District, 2 were in Scotland, and I've had a couple in the Himalaya, and somehow I've managed to survive them. I did actually try and get out at the side, but generally in Scotland you're actually swept into rocks. It's not usually a humongous avalanche, but you're usually swept over a cliff. It could just be a small amount of snow that sweeps you into rocks.
Very dangerous and a very sad time for those concerned, as you
Heart
said.
goes out to the families. It's tragic.
As do to. Our thoughts are with them. Alan, thanks very much for joining us today.
Cheers.
Right, the Reverend Richenda Lee is here to take us through the stories which have caught her eye in the newspapers as Alan makes his way out.